Hey, in today's lesson, you will learn how to write a professional CV in English from start to finish. This is a fantastic lesson for those of you who are looking for a job, looking for a new job, who have never written a CV in English, or maybe you're looking to take a career step. Let's go. All right, so the 5 main sections of your CV. First, you need to include your basic information, followed by either an objective or a personal profile. Then you're going to have your employment history or your work history. After that, you need to include your education, qualifications, and certifications. And finally, a list of your relevant skills. So these are the 5 main sections that you need to include: your basic information, objective or profile, employment history, education and certification, and your skills. Let's start off with your basic information. So, what you're going to include here is your full name. This means your first name and your surname. You can also include your professional title. So, this would be something like graphic designer, project manager, business developer, and so on. You also need to include your contact details. This would be your email, your phone number, and the city where you live. As well, if you have something like a website, a LinkedIn profile, or a portfolio to share that's relevant, you can also include that at the top of your CV with your basic information. But if you don't have any of these things, that's totally okay. You can leave this information out. All right, so here is what an example of your basic information would actually look like. You're going to start off with your full name, so first name and surname, Joe Green. Your professional title, in this case, Human Resources Specialist, and your contact information. So a professional email address, nothing crazy from when you were a kid. Make sure your email address is professional when you're applying for jobs, your telephone number, and the city that you live in. Next, let's have a look at your objective or profile, which is going to look a little bit different depending on your personal experience and your situation. So, first of all, what is an objective and what is a profile? An objective is basically a summary of who you are as a professional and what your goals are. An objective is suitable if you are still building your experience. Perhaps you're a new graduate, maybe a student. Basically, you want to focus on what your career goals are. And a profile is basically a summary of your skills and experience and what you have to offer the company. A profile is suitable for someone with more experience. You just want to kind of give a summary of who you are. So you need to choose, depending on your situation, whether an objective is more appropriate for you or whether a profile would be more appropriate for you. So let's look at an example. So here's an example of an objective: a dedicated human resources graduate with strong technical knowledge of current employment law and HR best practices, seeking a role in a professional HR team. So this objective states what you are looking for. You're looking for a role in a professional HR team, and this objective was written by a recent graduate. Now, a profile: human resources professional with 10 years of experience in training and development, recruiting, and payroll. Excellent track record of developing HR procedures in line with company core values, seeking a new challenge as an HR manager. And a tip for you: there's no need to use first person here. So you don't need to say I am in your objective or profile. You can simply write these as statements. Next up is your employment history. When it comes to your employment history, make sure to include the company name and the position that you held at each company. As well, make sure you include the location. So the city, state, province, and country, and the start and end dates of how long you were with each company. Also, make sure that you include a bulleted description of your role. No need to write a full paragraph. Instead, you want to stick with bullet points to make it easier to read through the information in this section. And remember to list your jobs in reverse chronological order. This means that you want to list your most recent or your current job at the top of this section and then work backwards from there so that potential employers or hiring managers can see what you have done most recently first. So here's an example of what your employment history might look like. So here we have the name of the company, ABC Hotel, your position, Human Resources Specialist, the location, Toronto, Ontario, and the start and end dates of how long you worked there. So we have January 2019 to March of 2023. And a summary of what you did. Maximized productivity through effective employee training programs. Maintained a strong professional team by streamlining the hiring process. Implemented a more flexible employee scheduling system, resulting in a 40% decrease in employee turnover. And a tip for you, make sure that you're using present tenses when you are writing about your current position and past tenses for past positions. Next, you have your education, certifications, and qualifications. In this section of your CV, make sure to list the name of the institution or university or college that you attended and the location, so the city and the country. As well, include the name of your program and the qualification that you obtained. You also need to include your completion or your graduation date, as well as any relevant certifications that you got. So this is relevant to the job or to the company that you're applying for. And make sure to list your education or your certifications or qualifications also in reverse chronological order. This means that you have the most recent one up at the top of this section, and then you work your way backwards from there, just like with your employment history. So an example of your education or your certifications might look like this. An MBA in Human Resource Management from New York University, and you graduated or completed it in 2009. And for your certifications, you have a certification called Professional in Human Resources, or PHRI. And you got this from the HR Certification Institute, or HRCI. And you acquired this in 2010. And a tip for you. After you've completed a degree, you no longer need to include your high school education on your CV. You can include your high school education if you're still a student or if you are younger, but as you progress in your career, especially once you have completed higher education and post-secondary education, you no longer need to include your high school diploma on your CV. If you're enjoying this video, give it a like and leave a comment to let me know. And subscribe so you don't miss future videos to help you communicate with confidence in English. Next, let's have a look at the list of relevant skills. All right, so when it comes to your skills, you want to include between 4 and 10 relevant skills, depending on your experience. Now, 10 is an absolute maximum. Don't go crazy and just list every single skill that you can think of or every single skill that you can find. You want to be selective here. Make sure you choose job-specific and relevant skills. So even if you have some skills, but they're not related at all to the job that you're applying for or to the industry that you're in, you want to leave those out. Again, be very selective and intentional with the skills that you include on your CV. Make sure to include a short explanation or an example for each skill, and we're going to take a look at how to do that in just a moment. And list your skills in order of importance. This means you want to put the most relevant, the most important, or your strongest skill at the beginning or at the top of this list, all right? Now let's look at an example of what the skill section on your CV might look like. Communication skills. So here's an example. We're going to explain it a little. You're able to bridge communication gaps between employees, leading to conflict resolution. For your organization skills, you simultaneously manage job advertisements, interviews, training programs, and payroll processes. And training skills. You create and deliver successful training programs to employees across the country. So you can see that we've given examples or explanations for each of the skills that we have listed. A lot of people tend to just write a long list of skills, and there's no evidence to support the fact that they actually have those skills. And an important tip to keep in mind: only include skills that you really have and that you can really demonstrate. Do not lie, do not make things up, because you will be asked questions and challenged in this section. All right, so now that you know the 5 essential sections to include on your CV, let's put these all together. So we have your basic information up at the top, your objective or your profile. Remember to choose one. Your employment history, your education and certifications, and your relevant skills. So this is what your completed CV should look like. Of course, the length is going to vary depending on your experience, but if you follow these steps and be sure to include these 5 sections, you will have a comprehensive, clear, professional CV. Now let's talk about some things that you should not include on your CV. First of all, do not include your marital status. So this is your relationship status, whether you are married, single, divorced, widowed. No need to include this on your CV. It is not relevant in a professional setting. As well, do not include your gender or a photo of yourself. Unless, of course, you are a model or you're applying for a model job. In this case, you would, of course, need headshots or a portfolio, but that is an exception or a special case. There's also no need to include your age or your date of birth. Every country, every city, every state has a legal age at which you can work. And as long as you meet that age, you will have to provide your identification when you're hired for a job. So there's no need to include your age on your CV, but be ready to provide identification later on in the hiring process. Make sure not to include any outdated or irrelevant experience. So sometimes you change career paths or you do jobs when you're a student, but they have no relevance or no connection to the industry you're in now or the job that you are applying for now. And in this case, you can simply leave those jobs out. And finally, do not include any of your personal social media accounts. So there you have it. Those are the 5 sections to include on a professional CV in English. Now, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, today's lesson comes from my Essential English for Business course. And this is just the first step to writing a successful CV in English. In the course, you will also learn specifically what language to use and what language to avoid on your CV. And you'll learn how to tailor your CV when you are applying for different jobs. So this means that you don't just write one CV and send it out to all potential employers. You do have to make adjustments for every job application to increase your chances of success. I will link the Essential English for Business course down below the video so you can learn more. As well, don't forget to grab my free ebook, English Conversations Made Simple. That's also linked down below. Thank you so much for watching, learning, and spending time with me today. I'll see you very soon in the next one.